This is section 6.6.2, factoring quadratics with a greater than 1. Here's our first example. We're given the quadratic expression 6x squared minus 23x minus 18. You'll see in this expression that the a, which is the coefficient of the squared term, is 6. When this coefficient of the squared term is some number other than 1, factoring the quadratic becomes more difficult. Certainly not undoable, but certainly more difficult. So the process is all the same. We start by factoring into our two binomials by setting up our parentheses. Then I like to deal with my signs. You'll remember the rules that we talked about in the previous video. You look at the second sign first, and if that second sign is negative, like in this case, you automatically have one positive and one negative sign in your two binomials. Now we can factor our first term, which in this case is the 6x squared. Those factors will go here and here. And then we'll be able to factor our last term, and those factors will go here and here. However, when the coefficient of the squared term is a number 6, we have to consider all the possible factors of 6. So it could be 6 and 1, or it could be 3 and 2. With 18 as our last term, our constant, we have to consider all the possible factors of 18. So it could be 9 and 2, could be 18 and 1, could be 6 and 3. All of those are factors of 18. So what we need to do here is we need to mix and match the factors of 6 with the factors of 18 in order to come up with the correct factors of this quadratic. All along, thinking about how we get this middle term of negative 23x. Okay, so let's go through and think through this together. So you could try 6 and 1 for factors of 6 first. So let's just, for the sake of this, 6x and 1x are the two factors. And factors of 18, well, let's try 9 and 2. Right? So we'll put 9 here and 2 here. Now, foiling this back together is a must. It's not an option. You have to be able to foil it back together to check your answer. We sort of arbitrarily chose the factors of 6 and 18. So let's foil it and see what happens here. So first would be 6x times x, which would be 6x squared. Outside would be 6x times negative 2, which would be negative 12x. Inside would be 9 times x, which is positive 9x. And last would be positive 9 times negative 2, which is negative 18. We combine our like terms, the two middle terms, and this is what we end up with. Now you'll see here that this middle term, negative 3x, is not the same as the middle term here. So that indicates to us that these are not the correct factors, and we're going to have to go back and make some changes. So let's get rid of this. That was just our check. Let's get rid of our factors here, and here, and here, and here. And let's do a little more thinking before we actually start to plug in options. So we need to end up with this negative 23x as the middle term. Well, you pretty much can eliminate the options of pairing up the 6 and the 1 with the 18 and the 1, because that doesn't seem to in any way give us negative 23x, meaning 6 times 18, that would be a very large number. What would that be, 108? So that's not going to end up getting us to negative 23x. If you did 6 times 1 and 18 times 1, well, you have a plus and a minus going on here and here. So you'd end at 18 minus 6 is 12, And 6 minus 18 is negative 12, so that's not going to work either. So if we start to do a little more thinking about how to get this negative 23x, let's think about the 3 and the 2 and the 9 and the 2. If we do 3 times 9, that gives us 27. And 2 times 2 is 4. 27 minus 4 gives us 23. Those are the factors that we want to use here. So let's start filling in here. 3x and 2x. And now we want the 3 to multiply by the 9, so we need to put the 9 here. And we want the 2 to multiply by the 2, so we put the 2 here. Now let's FOIL to check. First terms, 3x times 2x, will give us 6x squared. Outside terms, 3x times negative 9 would give us negative 27x. Inside terms, positive 2 times positive 2x would give us positive 4x. Last terms, positive 2 times negative 9 would give us negative 18. When we combine these two middle terms, because they're like terms, we get negative 23x. So 6x squared minus 23x minus 18, that does match the original quadratic. So we can be sure that our factors, 3x plus 2 and 2x minus 9, are correct. Here's our next example. I'll move through this one a little more quickly. Set up my parentheses. Second sign of the quadratic is negative. That means I automatically have a plus and a minus. Now, factors of 2, well, this is an easy one because 2 and 1 are the only ones because it's a prime number. So 2x and 1x. Oh, this is really nice because 3, the factors of 3 are 3 and 1. It also is a prime number. So the only question is, do I want to go 3 and 1 or 1 and 3? Well, I need a middle term of positive 5x. So I think I'm going to want to multiply the 3 times the 2 and the 1 times the 1. Now I want that middle term to be positive 5x. So I'm going to have to change my signs in my parentheses, switch these around a little bit, and make this the positive and this the negative. Now, the reason that I can do this in my head is because I've practiced enough and I've done so many of these that what I'm really doing is I'm foiling in my head. If you're not to that point yet, you have to do the foiling out on paper. Now, I'm still going to finish by foiling out on paper to double check. So first, 2x times x would be 2x squared. Outside, 2x times 3 would be positive 6x. Inside, negative 1 times x would be negative 1x. And last, negative 1 times positive 3 would be negative 3. Combine my two like terms, and I get positive 5x. So 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 matches the original. So that means I can be sure that these factors are correct. All right, another example here, 6x squared minus 11x plus 4. Set up my parentheses. This time the second sign is positive, so I look at the first sign, and whatever it is, it goes in both. Factors of 6 will be 3 and 2 and 6 and 1. Factors of 4 will be 4 and 1 and 2 and 2. I need to end up with a middle term of negative 11x. So if we think about this, how do we want to mix and match here? 3, here we go, ready? And I'm foiling in my head. I'm trying to mix and match these factors with these factors. So what I just did in my head is I said, okay, if I take 3 times 1, that's going to give me 3. And if I take 2 times 4, that's going to give me 8. 3 plus 8 is 11, which negative 11x is what I want to get. So those are the factors I'm going to use here. So I go to 3x and 2x, and I want to do the 3 times 1, so I put the 1 here, and I want to do the 4 times 2, so I put the 4 here. And again, it all goes back to understanding FOIL. Now I'll check just to make sure, or just to show you, because I've already done this in my head. 3x and 2x is 6x squared. Outside terms, negative 3x. Inside terms, negative 8x. Last terms, positive 4. Combine my two middle terms, negative 11x. That matches the original, and so I know for sure that my factors here are correct. So this has been section 6.6.2, factoring quadratics with a greater than 1.